Hello and welcome to another episode of American Scammers, where we explore the most notorious and cunning fraudsters in the history of America. Today we are going to talk about 5 famous fraudsters who cheated millions of people and dollars with their schemes and lies. Some of them were caught and punished, but some of them managed to escape justice and disappear. Are you ready to be amazed and outraged? Let's begin. 4. Frank Abagnale Jr. Frank Abagnale Jr. is one of the most famous imposters and forgers in history. Between the ages of 15 and 21, he assumed various identities, such as an airline pilot, a doctor, a lawyer, and a teacher. He also wrote millions of dollars worth of bad checks across 26 countries. He was eventually arrested in France in 1969 and extradited to the US, where he served 5 years in prison. However, his story did not end there. After his release, he was hired by the FBI as a consultant and lecturer on fraud prevention. He also founded his own company that provides security services to corporations and governments. He became a respected authority on fraud and forgery, and his life story was adapted into a best-selling book and a movie called Catch Me If You Can. 3. Charles Ponzi. Charles Ponzi is the namesake of the Ponzi scheme, a type of fraud that involves paying returns to investors from new investors' money, rather than from actual profits. Ponzi was an Italian immigrant who came to America in 1903 with big dreams but little money. In 1919, he started a company that promised to pay 50% interest in 45 days or 100% interest in 90 days by exploiting an arbitrage opportunity in international postal reply coupons. Ponzi's scheme attracted thousands of investors who poured millions of dollars into his company. However, Ponzi was actually paying old investors with new investors' money, while pocketing some for himself. He also had no real business or assets to back up his claims. His scheme collapsed in 1920 when he was exposed by the media and the authorities. He was arrested and convicted of mail fraud, and spent several years in prison in the US and Canada. He died in poverty in Brazil in 1949. 2. Bernie Madoff. Bernie Madoff is perhaps the most infamous fraudster of the 21st century. He was the founder and chairman of Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities LLC, a Wall Street firm that offered investment advisory services to wealthy individuals, charities, and institutions. Madoff claimed to use a sophisticated trading strategy that consistently generated high returns with low risk. However, Madoff was actually running a massive Ponzi scheme that defrauded thousands of investors of billions of dollars over decades. He fabricated account statements and trade confirmations to hide his fraud from his clients and regulators. His scheme unraveled in 2008 when he confessed to his sons that his business was one big lie. He was arrested and pleaded guilty to 11 federal crimes, including securities fraud, wire fraud, money laundering, and perjury. He was sentenced to 150 years in prison, the maximum possible sentence. 1. Victor Lustig. Victor Lustig is considered one of the most skillful con artists ever. He was born in Austria-Hungary in 1890 and spoke multiple languages fluently. He traveled across Europe and America, pulling off various scams and swindles with his charm and intelligence. He used aliases such as Count Victor Lustig or Robert V. Miller to impress his victims. One of his most famous scams was selling the Eiffel Tower to unsuspecting scrap metal dealers in Paris in 1925. He posed as a government official who claimed that the tower was going to be demolished due to maintenance costs, and offered to sell it to the highest bidder. He managed to convince one dealer to pay him a large sum of money for the tower, and then fled with the money before the dealer realized he had been duped. Another one of his scams was selling a machine that he claimed could produce $100 bills by copying them. He demonstrated the machine to potential buyers by inserting a real $100 bill and producing another one after 6 hours. He explained that the process was slow because it had to copy each bill exactly. In reality, he had hidden another real $100 bill inside the machine beforehand.